What's going on, everybody? C4 here. Welcome back to the channel where we're going to continue with some early 2020 draft prep. We're going through all the positions, and today I'm going to break it down the top 10 tight ends as of the midseason rankings. Where we're really at. I think this is actually low-key a solid draft for tight ends. There's no elite prospects, not like last year where you got, you know, a Noah Fant and a TJ Hawkinson coming at the same time out of Iowa. Irv Smith was really good too. But I think there is a lot of day two value at the tight end position, and there's a lot of prototypical NFL, this era tight ends that are going to be able to be big time contributors to their offense throughout their NFL career. And I think all 10, I don't have any honorable mentions. I was able to come down and hone this list down to 10. I think all these guys should have long careers in the NFL. No messing around. We're here for tight ends. We'll be doing offensive line will be coming out Monday. I know it's a not sexy position to talk about. But, you know, we're getting through it because everyone needs an offensive lineman. But number 10 for the tight end, starting it right away, we have C.J. O'Grady, 6'4", 250 pounds, out of Arkansas. Arkansas low-key produces some really good tight ends. You know, they're not tight end U. I think that still probably goes to, like, Stanford. But I think Arkansas, they don't get enough respect. They're probably fringe top 5 for the school that produces tight ends. But in O'Grady, he's a great receiver, has wow catch ability for sure. I think already this year he has 2 highlight reel catches that have been on like plays of the week. And he's, you know, he's been really productive. One of the more productive tight ends over the last 2 seasons. I think when all is said and done, he will have one of the more eye-popping numbers for this year at Arkansas. I mean, Arkansas is disappointing. You could argue quarterback play's not that great. If he had a better quarterback, maybe his stat lines would be even better. The negative is he's going to be a little bit older. He's a redshirt senior, so that's, you know, you're getting in that 23, 24-year-old as a rookie. Had some off the field in 2015. Little driving drunk. You know, that was a long time ago. I'm assuming he's been able to move past that, but it is always something that, you know, you kind of cock your head at and go, okay, well, you know, he has had some hiccups before. Maybe we got to do an extra, you know, more work that has to go into the scouting of him. And I think ultimately he's always going to be maybe a early day three type prospect, but I really do like the catchability. I think he has enough talent to probably stick on as a tight end too in the NFL. Go to tight end number 9. I have Mitchell Wilcox, 6'5", 245 pounds, out of South Florida. He's a natural receiver. He can run a full, I think, route tree for what you want a tight end to run in the National Football League. He's been productive at South Florida, but ultimately he is a glorified wide receiver. Even though he's 245, doesn't really look 245, might have buffed those numbers up a little bit like Oklahoma did with Kyler Murray. And, you know, that's not necessarily a big negative anymore, because tight ends in the NFL kind of are expected to be wide receivers, but it will be something we pop up here time and time again for some negatives, because, you know, what separates the really good tight ends, like the Gronkowskis and stuff, because they are wide receivers and they're also gigantic human beings that can block. And if you can't block, you know, you're going to be more of a role player, and that's why some of these guys here lower down the list that might have big productive years in college and stuff like that. Oh, well, this guy had 600 yards 7 times. Why is he down here? You can't block. If you can't block, you're going to have a niche role. And I feel like a guy like Wilcox, C.J. O'Grady, the way we're starting this list, these guys are going to be more so niche playmakers in the NFL, but still playmakers in the NFL. And also for Wilcox, older prospect as a red shirt senior. Going to tight end number 8, we have Hunter Bryant, 6'2", 245 pounds, out of Washington. He's just a really good football player. He can do it all. Catch, he can run Chris Relps. They can put him at H-back. He can run between the tackles, run outside the tackles, go downfield. Big question for me, though, is because he can do it all. Not only what is he? Is he a tight end? 6'2", 245. We've seen short tight ends. They can get the job done. Evan Ingram's a little bit undersized. Delaney Walker's obviously maybe the more popular one. But I don't know. I don't know if teams are going to view him as a tight end or view him just as an offensive weapon. I think when you're talking about his draft value, there's 2 ways. Either teams are going to value that more because he's just a chess piece, or you're going to look at someone like Dimitri Flowers a couple years ago from Oklahoma. He pretty much did it all for Oklahoma, got classified as a fullback, UDFA, now he's out of the league. I think he's in the XFL. Not saying that's going to be the case with Hunter Bryant. I want to see how good of an athlete he is. I think a lot of his draft stock will be hinged on the combine. I think if he tests out very, very well, then he's a lot easier to implement in your offensive scheme. If he tests as just an average to above average athlete, things get a little more tricky. And he has struggled with injuries throughout his career at Washington, which could be some red flags medically. But I think he's a very interesting option. That's why we have him here at 8. Going to tight end number 7, we have COLBY PARKINSON, 6'7", 235 pounds from Stanford. He's an A+ red zone threat. He's your prototypical Stanford tight end, very solid route runner, okay blocker. But the biggest thing, the biggest red flag when you look at Colby Parkinson, first you look at 6'7", like, wow, you cannot teach that height. This guy must get a lot of swipes from thoughts on Tinder, but he needs to get stronger. You got to fill out that frame. 6'7", 235. He is very small. He definitely needs, he can bulk up. He has the frame to be 6'7", 255. And I think that's something that he might have to be one of those guys that gets redshirted his first year in the NFL or be used very sparingly in just red zone packages while he bulks up on an NFL strength and conditioning program. But I think the ceiling is very high for Parkinson. Maybe 7's a little low on him right now, having a little bit of a down year, but there's, the whole Stanford offense is struggling. But definitely one to watch here in Colby Parkinson. Generally speaking, too, I don't know how well of an athlete he's going to test. I think he's probably going to be above average, somewhere in that territory. So I think 7, somewhere, 4th, 5th, 3rd, probably 4th, 5th round, somewhere in that territory is where I expect him to get drafted. Moving on to tight end number 6, we have Grant CALCATERRA, 6'3", 220 pounds out of Oklahoma. Ridiculous catchability. He's a wide receiver. He's pretty much a wide receiver. That's all I can say about it. Positive. He runs routes like a wide receiver. He's built like JJ Arcega-White. So he's a wide receiver. Blocking, he's always going to be limited as a blocker. I personally think he's going to be moved to wide receiver, but he's classified as a tight end. We're talking about tight ends. Very interesting option. I mean, he's one of those guys. I wouldn't be shocked to see him be like 6'2.5". So then you're starting to get like Hunter Bryant territory. Like, just, and he's having a down year right now with Oklahoma. They're not utilizing him right now. He's not a big target for Jalen Hurts because he had a ridiculous 2018, was a big go-to target for Kyler Murray. Not as much involved. Don't know if that's going to hurt his stock or not. I think what ultimately is going to be, where's he going to play? I think when all said and done, though, he will be a wide receiver, but for the sake of the video, he'll be my 6th tight end in case he stays a tight end. Going to tight end number 5, we have Matt Bushman, 6'5", 235 pounds, out of BYU. A great receiver. He's been productive for a long time. He's been on my watch list for like 3 years now because he had a really good true freshman season for BYU. He can run all the routes you want a tight end to run. Questions is at 235. Not great of a blocker, not a natural blocker. Willing blocker, but not natural. Athletic concerns, I guess. Is he going to be a top-end athlete? Most likely not, but there's a spot for him. There's a place for him. I think he could be a low-end tight end 1 in the NFL. And I think there is definitely some value there. But, pretty much all these guys I'm talking about right now, I think they're going to be late day 2, probably early day 3 picks. Guys are going to be, 5th round, 6th round, 4th round, maybe. But I definitely think Matt Bushman, for the tight end conversation, for draft Twitter, just draft talk in general, he's not getting nearly enough respect. I think he's a really, really nice playmaker. Tight end number 4, we have Jacob Breeland, 6'5", 240 pounds out of Oregon. I see his ceiling fairly solid as a safety net tight end in the National Football League. So that's like a middle of the park tight end 1. You see natural chemistry. Honestly, if you're one of the top teams in the first round that end up drafting Justin Herbert as your quarterback 1, your franchise quarterback, I honestly would be like looking 3rd round, 4th round, ensuring I get Jacob Breeland if you don't already have a big tight end. Like, look, I'm looking at Cincinnati. I mean, they wasted a pick. They got Drew Sample or something, whoever the hell they got out of Washington. I'm getting Jacob Breeland. I'm drafting him. That chemistry that he has with Justin Herbert, I definitely think could carry over to the next level. I would honestly prioritize that. Whatever team ends up, like if you're Miami, there you go. Mike Gesicki's been a bust. Guy like Jacob Breeland comes in. Great familiarity. Already have that security blanket established on the offense. He's a natural receiver in Jacob Breeland. Negative, again, for a lot of these tight ends is they are moving towards being wide receivers, and I don't see him having a very high ceiling as a blocker. Not a huge frame, so that will always be a little bit of a concern. But because he's a safety net, there's always going to be that value in an NFL offense. Going to tight end number 3, we have Jared PINKNEY, 6'4", 260 out of Vandy. This guy's jacked. He had a huge 2018, a little bit of a dip this year. But Vandy's been all over the place, not really great. Great size. I think he has a very high ceiling to become a top tight end. I think he has that upside to develop as a blocker. Already shows a lot of natural receiving traits. He's a good athlete. Not an A+ athlete, but I think he should test fairly well. He's very powerful, very explosive. But the negative against him would he's not as natural a receiver as some of the tight ends ranked around him. A lot of these guys are calling glorified receivers. And while that is kind of a positive and a negative, it's a double-edged sword. They are natural route runners. They have natural hands. And I think if you had to have a negative against Pinkney, he's more traditional of a tight end than he is these guys that are pretty much wide receivers, big slots. So I guess if you had to find a negative with Pinkney's game, it's that. But I do think his ceiling's a lot higher than, say, 4, 5, and 6, if we were talking about that for the rankings. And I think he should go probably 3rd, 4th round, somewhere in that territory. Going to tight end number 2, we have Albert Okwuegbunam, Probably butchered that, but we're going to call him Albert O from here on out. 6'5", 255 from Missouri. Elite red zone threat. All this guy does is catch red zone touchdowns. Has an A+ catch radius. Looks to be a good athlete. Not exactly sure to pinpoint what tier of athlete he's going to be. It's going to be interesting combine for him, but I think generally speaking, he will test, you know, well above average to, if not good, in athletics stats at the combine. But he's not really a technician. Consistency has been an issue. We'll have some just bad routes, give up on plays where you kind of question what's going on there. I don't know if it's less because he doesn't have Drew Lock anymore, but generally speaking, he is pretty much a safe tight end prospect. I think he will go in the second round, and if you definitely need to improve your red zone offense, he should be your top target. And then finishing up at number 1 at tight end, it's Brycen Hopkins, 6'5", 245 out of Purdue. He's an A-tier athlete, not A+ like a Noah Fant, but I think generally speaking for tight ends, he's got to test very well at the combine, brings a lot of big play ability, has great hands, his route running is fine, definitely can be refined, definitely can be improved upon, not a red flag. And really the negative is, like we've said for all these, you know, I'm going to say it's generous that he's 245, it's his blocking. It's going to be, you know, if you want to draft a tight end in the first, I don't think he goes in the first round, I think he goes second round, but if you want to get that elite first tight end off the board, I still find it at least hard to justify getting a guy that I don't know if they're ever really going to establish himself as an inline blocker, a guy that can really offer much in run. Like, I want that balanced tight end. I mean, Zach Ertz for the longest time, you know, even though last year he broke the protection record, he's got a lot better at pass protection. He's not in run blocking. It's not A+, it's definitely not a strength of his game, but he's not a liability anymore. And I think a lot of these tight ends coming out of college, I don't know what their ceiling's going to be because they've never been asked to do that. They just get their strengths maximized at the college level, and that is just being a glorified receiver. So, you know, maybe that's where you see the value in a bigger body like Albert O or Jared Pinkney over these guys that are more natural receivers. But, you know, on the other side, teams want playmakers. Regardless of what position, if you're wide receiver, running back, or tight end, they want playmakers. And if you're talking about playmakers, I think the best one in this year's draft is Brycen Hopkins. Starting to get a little momentum right now in draft Twitter. A lot of people are starting to talk about it a lot more. I think the Draft Network has him as their number 1 tight end. But yeah, man, the blocking, not great. I mean, willing blocker, I guess. The mentality's there. It's just, I don't know with his frame if he's ever going to be able to put that together or bulk up a little bit. Will that kind of hinder some of his athletic ability? I don't know. Wait and see. But I think, you know, the direction and the trend of NFL's modern day tight ends, he should be the first tight end selected in this draft, at least in my opinion, through the halfway point of the college football season. So there you go, guys. Those are my tight end rankings. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any rankings you today. As always, your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button, smash the like button if you enjoyed, and until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.